UFC 319 gave us one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen in the history of MMA. Lerone Murphy iced Aaron Pico out cold with a spinning back elbow, and honestly, that clip is going to be replayed for years. I was lucky enough to watch it live in the arena, and man, when that hit, I couldn't believe it. I was almost in disbelief, and watching it back, damn, I kind of still can't believe it. That was one of the most picturesque knockouts I've ever seen. After the fight, I was speaking to a couple of my friends and we was having a debate. Is Aaron Pico's chin finished? Does Aaron Pico have a bad chin, or does he just have bad defensives? You know, after the fight, I was leaning quite heavily that it's actually his chin that's bad, and my friends were telling me, no, it's more that his defense is bad. So I took the liberty of going back and watching every single Aaron Pico fight. Win and lose. Every single one his entire career. And I've actually changed my opinion quite a lot. Of course, I don't think he has the most iron chin of all time, but I'm actually leaning heavily to say that it's his defensives that are the problem. Let's talk about if his chin is actually finished. So I'm gonna take you all the way back to his very first fight in the octagon. Aaron Pico making a debut as a 20-year-old fighter. He was either 20 or 21. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I know he was around that age. He fought Zach Freeman. It was 2017, and he was making his debut on Bellator. It was the most hyped debut of any MMA fighter in history. There has not been a debut more hyped than the one of Aaron Pico, and it wasn't even inside the UFC. That's how much of a blue chip prospect this guy was. So he went out there and he fought this dude named Zach Freeman. He started off extremely aggressive, as he does in every fight. He walked straight forward into range, and within the first 10 seconds, he got caught with an uppercut in close range. The uppercut wobbled him badly. Zach Freeman jumped on a choke, and the fight was over shortly after that. It was a 24-second loss on Aaron Pico's debut. One of the worst debuts you could imagine. It couldn't have gone much worse for Aaron Pico. And right then and there, people started to label him with the bad chin narrative. Now fast forward to his second fight. His second fight was only 3 months after that debut loss to Zach Freeman. So he didn't say to himself, look, I need to work on my defensives. He didn't say to himself, I need to work on my durability. He said, I want to fight again. And 3 months later, he was back inside the octagon against Justin Lin. Now in that fight, he started out even more aggressive somehow than he did in his debut fight. He put the pace and pressure on Justin Lin from the get-go. He caught massive shots. Aaron Pico put it on him, threw a lot of shots, but took a lot of shots as well. There was one point in the fight where they just started exchanging blows. They just started swinging. Aaron Pico got rocked a little bit, but he didn't go down. And he ended up landing a brutal knockout. It's probably one of his most brutal knockouts in history. I'd say it is his most brutal knockout. It's a left hook, his patented left hook, on the chin, and he slept Justin Lin completely. But that wasn't a good performance. That was way too aggressive, way too much pressure, and his power and skills bailed him out. He was trading like a madman, chin high up in the air, his guard was nowhere to be seen, and he just won the exchange. So that's 2 fights in now, and the holes in his defense are showing dramatically. You go back and look at his next fight, nothing changes. He walks forward into range, and he just throws loads of shots, and he ends up getting a knockout again, because as I said, he's got extreme power and extreme skill set. I'd say he maybe wasn't as aggressive as the Justin Lin fight, but he was still very aggressive. Then a couple of years later comes the Henry Corrales fight, the only fight that he's fought twice inside the octagon, and this was their first match. This was 2 years after his debut, and all of his fights at this point had finished inside round 1, and all of them under 4 minutes. And this is a fight that sums up Aaron Pico perfectly. He hurts Henry Corrales early, drops him with an uppercut, but then his aggression come back to bite him, just like it did in his debut against Zach Freeman. He started exchanging because he knew he had hurt Henry Corrales, and what happened? He caught a right hook over the top, and it put him to sleep. Unlike the Zach Freeman fight, Pico was unconscious as soon as that punch hit his chin. This isn't a bad chin issue though. This is a defense issue. He had complete disregard for the power coming back at him. He was just swinging in the pocket. He got caught, and he paid the price for the second time in his career in only his 6th fight. Now this is where things started to change for Aaron Pico, because in his very next fight, he took on Adam Borix. And immediately he comes out, cracks Borix with a shot, but then he starts to wrestle. We hadn't seen this from him before. Yeah, he had took fighters down, but that was more taking a fighter down in the chaos, you know, like the fighter would clinch with him and he would just body lock and slam him to the ground. He had never actually gone out there with a wrestling game plan because he believed in his hands too much and he just wanted to knock people out. But with the Borics fight, he wrestled, grappled. He has world-class wrestling. He's actually known as a wrestler, right? Not as a boxer. So, of course, why wouldn't you use a wrestling? So anyway, he goes to try and use his wrestling. And guess what? It works. It works. And he doesn't get caught on the feet. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't get into any negative exchanges. He doesn't get clipped. He's looking phenomenal. He clearly wins the first round with wrestling, and he's clearly winning the second round with his wrestling as well. Now, the issue is his top control, his jiu-jitsu pressure isn't as good as his wrestling or as his pace and pressure on the feet. So he isn't able to keep Borics down for the entirety of the fight. And in the second round, Borics is able to get back up to his feet. When he gets back up to his feet, he sprints at Aaron Pico. And this all happens in about a second or 2 seconds, right? But he sprints at Aaron Pico, and Pico's natural tendency for someone sprinting to him is not to get away, is not to cover up, is to go at them. And this is a defense issue again. Now, I don't want to be completely harsh on him. Sometimes in fights, things just happen, right? But Pico's response in that split second of a fighter attacking him, Adam Borics, running into him, is to shoot for a takedown, is to be aggressive, is to go forward. And so he ran face first into the sprint, which turned into a flying knee, George Masvidal, Ben Askren style. And Adam Borics threw a flying knee, cracked Aaron Pico in the face, knocked him out. Like I said, I don't want to be too harsh, but if I was being a little bit harsh, I could say that this was another case of where his split-second aggression, or his aggression, even though it happened in a split second, got him into trouble here. Like I say, there's arguments both ways for this specific knockout, so I won't go too heavy on it, but it's still worth considering that Aaron's reaction to someone running at him was to basically run at them. After this fight, he seems to blend his wrestling and striking a lot better, right? He still continues to wrestle because he knows he can wrestle most guys. He still continues to knock most guys out because he knows he can knock most guys out. And he seems to be leveling up a bit as a fighter. But man, throughout the next 5, 6, 7 fights, he's still getting into exchanges at times on the feet where I question his defensives, where I question his fight IQ and his decision making. And then we fast forward all the way to his fight against Lerone Murphy, and that's what happened this weekend at UFC 319. So, man, this is many, many years on from that debut against Zach Freeman. This is 8 years later. At this point, the guy is a seasoned prospect, a seasoned veteran in MMA. So we should expect massive improvements from those early losses against Zach Freeman, Henry Corrales, and Adam Borics when he's taking on Lerone Murphy. But the Aaron Pico in those old fights almost looked like the exact Aaron Pico in the Lerone Murphy fight when it comes to the defensives, when it comes to the fight IQ, when it comes to the decision making. He looked more seasoned on the feet. He looked a little bit more comfortable. Somehow he looked even more vicious with even more power. He added some calf kicks into his game that he wasn't really throwing back in 2017 and 2019. But something he didn't do was change the aggression and the pace and the pressure that he put on his fighters. Now, look, I'm not here to say that he should just completely change his game because, man, if he stops pressuring fighters, he probably becomes a lot less effective. But in that Lerone Murphy fight, he put so much pressure on him and he was doing a good job because most people cannot handle his pressure. He was landing good body shots. He was landing some calf kicks. He was landing some takedowns. But he got hit with 3 big shots in that fight. Most people are thinking about the spinning elbow, but the first shot that he got hit with was just a straight elbow. Now, Aaron Pico had landed 2 massive body shots. I believe they were both left hooks to the body, as I said, all off the top of my head from my recent watch, but I'm not stopping in between this video to watch it. But I believe there were 2 left hooks to the body, which is his best shot by far. Left hook to the body or to the head, right? Left hook to the body is his best shot. And he landed 2 brutal ones on Lerone Murphy. You can see they hurt Lerone Murphy a little bit, but Murphy fired back with a very nice right elbow over the top, and it cracked Aaron, and it wobbled Aaron a little bit, shut him down a little bit, so much so that he shot him for a takedown right after it happened. So, you know, within the first minute or 2 of the fight, Aaron's got cracked with a massive shot in the same range that he's been knocked out in multiple times, which is that close range, that pocket boxing range. We fast forward about another minute into the fight, and Lerone Murphy lands a big knee. A knee as Aaron is coming in the exact same range where he always gets caught, which is that close range, that pocket boxing range. Because he's so good there, he's comfortable there, but it's also where he's the most vulnerable. So Lerone Murphy lands this beautiful knee, doesn't KO him, doesn't hit the right spot, whatever happens, the fight continues. And then the third and final blow comes when Aaron Pico walks into range, and he walks in quite awkwardly. You know, his hands are very wide. There's no high guard. There's no covering his temple, his face. His hands are down here, and he walks in side by side. Lerone Murphy times him. And by the way, Aaron puts his head to the right side, which is what he did in that fight about 3 or 4 times before that, because he likes to enter and get takedowns with his head on the right. And as he walks forward into range and does that, Lerone Murphy lands the most picturesque knockout of the entire year, the spinning back elbow, the point of the elbow on the temple, right on the dome, and knocks Aaron unconscious from the moment it landed on him, just like that first Henry Corrales fight. You just cannot rush in like that at this level against these opponents. Lerone Murphy is a sharpshooter, and if you give him an opening over and over again, then eventually he's going to get you. Maybe not with the first elbow, maybe not with the second knee, but with the third spinning elbow, he will get you. And again, it's not weak durability. I think most of the featherweight roster would not be able to eat that spinning back elbow. It's a defensive issue. It's defensive awareness that he is lacking. So my opinion shifted. Yeah, Aaron Pico's been knocked out multiple times. He's been rocked multiple times. And people might love to say he's chinny, but if you really watch those fights, he gets hurt because he's too aggressive and he leaves himself wide open, specifically in close range pocket boxing distance. Aaron Pico has insane power, elite wrestling. He's got all the tools to become a champion in this sport, but his biggest opponent is himself. If he could calm down, manage his aggression, and train out some of those bad habits in the octagon, he could be a world champion. But at this point in his career, that's a big if. You know, people have been saying that since his debut. And here we are a decade later, and the same mistakes keep on showing up. So he needs to sharpen these things up if he ever wants to realize his dream of becoming UFC world champion. I sincerely hope he can do it. All love and respect to Aaron Pico. I hope this video is not taken in the wrong way if it ever gets to him or his team or anybody like that. I'm just a guy who makes his living betting on MMA, and these are some of the things I've seen in my analysis. So does Aaron Pico have a bad chin? Personally, I don't think so. You know, I would say 80% defensive, 20% chin. He's not got a glass jaw. I've seen him take big shots. He's just reckless in the octagon. And the sad part is, if he doesn't fix it, he's always going to be the fighter who could have been versus the fighter who is, or the fighter who was. But I believe that he can rein himself in, calm himself down, use his experience to make those minor adjustments and eventually hold gold one day. I'll be rooting for him, just as I was back in Bellator and now in the UFC. So let me know what you think in the comments. Bad chin or bad defensives? I could be wrong, just my opinion.